today's show, Nate Kosicki is an activist. He's a revolutionary, and he has branded some of the most notable products and companies on the airwaves in his years as a marketer. He's called The Experience by those who know him, and today we get to find out why. Marketing legend Nate Kosicki on Tuesday noon for October 31st, 2006. Welcome to Tuesday Noon. We're back. It's another Tuesday. It's another noon. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
Wahoo. We made it to Halloween. This is
I love this day.
Pete, take off your mask.
See, that joke was great in 1950, right?
But it was still funny. Because your first comment was, I'm not wearing a mask. Oh, it's not funny anymore.
Yeah. We're back in Seattle. It's another part of our Seattle road trip. We've had a great experience here with our Seattle folks. We thank them for stepping up and sitting down with us for this.
Next month we'll be in Miami, Florida.
Nice.
Yeah. Miami in November?
Why not, man?
Oh, is it hurricane?
Is that hurricane season? No.
I don't know. All I know is that there's a window of Miami that you want to hit, right?
Maybe we'll be in Hawaii.
I think you can go there anytime of year.
Join us for our Hawaii show.
Our Hawaiian show.
Hawaii
We'll go wherever
Hawaii
we need to go.
show.
Here we come.
We have a really exciting show today.
We do.
I'm very excited because this is, this is kind of our field, right?
I'm
a marketing
all over
marketing guy. I'm very excited about this. Whose job is it to do the big intro?
Mary's job.
Oh, that's my job.
Well, hi, Mary.
Hi. All right. Well, who we have here with us today is Nate. And Nate, will you say your last name for the audience?
No, you got to take a shot at
I
it.
do? Okay. Kosicki?
Close.
Okay.
Kosicki.
Kosicki. Okay. I'm from the Midwest. See, I butcher everything.
You really did butcher that.
I did.
I gotta tell you.
Can we stop real quick, Mary? Can you tell us what Xander is for Halloween?
Xander is going to be an eggplant.
An eggplant, ladies and gentlemen.
You are such a vegetarian,
Now,
taking it way too far.
when your kid is growing up, did you ever think eggplant? What's it going to be next year? Brussels sprout?
I figured by next year he'll
Carrot?
be 3 and he'll be demanding. He'll know what he wants to be.
He'll be a handgun.
So,
I want to be a Beretta 9mm, Mama.
probably,
As soon as he becomes Halloween sentient.
Because that was an eggplant last
it's
year.
so cute. We're going to have a picture on the website so everybody
He's
can
the
see
cutest
Xander in
little
his eggplant outfit.
Oh.
Anyway, I know, I'm scarring him for life.
Yes, you are.
Truly.
All right.
Please.
Anyway,
continue.
okay, back. So we have Nate here with us. He's a faculty member, obviously, here in Seattle, teaches a whole variety of classes, has a fascinating background. And so I know for all of us, we're just interested, has worked with some incredible clients, has been a successful entrepreneur himself, marketing background, researcher, industrial psychologist that I'd like to talk about a little bit at one point. But anyway, Nate, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself and where you've been and where you are now?
I have to tell you, Nate, we've interviewed other people who know you, and they say to us, who else are you talking to? We say, well, we've got Nate Kosicki coming in, and they say, The Experience. They call you The Experience, Nate. Why do they call you The Experience?
I don't know. I think that people don't know me.
I think we all should be so lucky to have that kind of moniker.
Nobody knows everything that I do. People just acknowledge me for the small part of me that touches them. Some people just think I'm a hockey player or a skier. I used to be a professional hockey player.
Really?
Yeah. So some people just relate to me as an athlete or aged athlete anymore now. Some people think I'm a teacher. Nobody knows really who I am. So maybe that's the experience. And I come and go. You don't want to get too close to the flame. Yeah. This is a rental, not a purchase.
So tell us about yourself.
I grew up in Montreal, and which was a wonderful place to grow up. I suppose my grandmother was my best friend growing up, so I was privy to a much earlier time. And I remember running outside with a carrot to feed the milkman's horse. He used to come by with a horse, to deliver the milk. And there's a certain privilege associated with growing up in that type of an environment. And some of the kids that I grew up with are the leaders in the world today. they came from Eastern Europe, 1956, the Hungarian Revolution. And so these people came over here, and they were doctors and lawyers in Eastern Europe, and they were janitors over here in Canada. And so they pushed their kids, saying to bring the family name back, you have to work hard, have to have an education. Everybody I know is a doctor, a lawyer, PhD of some kind.
Wow.
That's just how it was in our neighborhood. So it was a great place to grow up.
Fascinating.
Did you get into marketing in Canada early? Or?
No, I had no interest in pretty much anything. I was just living my life as a dumb kid. And so the longer it takes you to grow up, the more fun you can have, and the more that gets stored in the brain. Because
And there's hope for me.
there you go.
I'm on top of the world. Sorry.
The brain stores everything in the lifelong hope of you, arriving.
We're waiting for him.
One day.
We're waiting.
So I have a lot of wonderful experiences to look back on, and get a different take on it. At different stages of my life, I've looked back on certain things that have happened and had a different take each time as I become a different person, hopefully a larger person.
What age did you start playing hockey?
Oh, like everybody, about 4 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. It's also a fairly decent skier. I taught racing and raced for college and did all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I don't know if I'm going back. I had ACL surgery a few months ago.
Oh,
So that's been kind of interesting. But supposedly I could go ski again in spring.
Wow.
keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah,
for you.
truly.
But anyway,
So,
then it was
yeah,
like 1970. I went on to University of Calgary to do a graduate work. And, 1970, pretty exciting time. I got my master's in 6 months. And then my uncle was, he was in the toy business, so I did my thesis on children's toys. Persuasive communication to convince parents to buy different toys for their kids. So I basically did it on communication and advertising. I studied brainwashing and all of that sort of stuff. And then in the summer, my advisor said, "Well, would you like to take this job? Hired by Prime Minister of Canada to run part of the youth hostel system in Canada, to take care of the traveling youth of the nation." And there were a lot of people coming up from, Vietnam War, and people were running around right in the middle of the, hippie generation. I was just a regular, straight kid, looked kind of like I do now. But when that summer was over, my hair was way out to here, like a big, huge afro, and had lots of things around my neck. And
We should get that for the website.
and lifetime friends,
Yeah.
because we all went through pretty much everything together, a full change and different way of looking at life.
So tell us about kind of in the 70s, and a little bit earlier you alluded to a story about yourself with draft dodgers. So,
Well, it was part of our responsibility to take care of the draft dodgers that were coming up to Canada. It wasn't our war, and we perceived that these people had made a very difficult decision, and we didn't want them to be a drain on our society, and so it was in part my responsibility to take care of the medical, legal, and housing requirements of the people who were coming up to Canada, and we wanted to welcome them in and give them a good start. So
As
I
part
did
of
that.
what function? It just as a social duty, or was this part of an organizational or
Part of an
government?
organization, yeah. It was a government-paid job.
A government
Although they
paid
kept
job.
a little bit of an arm's length from us.
Isn't that
they wouldn't be
interesting,
too
though?
associated with you in some ways. Maybe.
I mean, I've been spread eagled over more cop cars than you can imagine. But I think in the end, we all ended up respecting one another.
Wow.
Yeah. I was also in charge of we used to call it crowd control at rock concerts. That meant that somebody's having a bad trip on a drug, and you point them in the direction of their arm mole. And they go, "Oh, look at that." Go, "Oh, yeah." And then they're off the topic wherever they were. But you had to know to do that.
Right.
And you had to be just slightly less screwed up than they were to be able to communicate. So, I mean, I worked with Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, the band,
Really?
Sha Na Na,
This is where the experience.
New
That's
Riders,
Truly.
Purple Sage, Jerry Garcia, all those people. So, yeah, all part of the same
Very
generation.
cool.
I have a lot of people in my class in military, still proud to have been there, whatever. We're all part of the same generation. We all get along really well.
I also see in your bio here that you have an Emmy.
Yeah, I've won those types of things. In my business, you do. You do a lot of production work. It's hard to avoid those. You go through a period in life when you're a shameless self-promoter, and part of being a shameless self-promoter is having certain awards attached to your name, and so you submit for these awards, and so many of them you win.
I want to go back to that transition, how you made it from athlete to social advocate to activist to when did you cross the border?
Entrepreneur.
And become that entrepreneur. I mean, how did you get here from there?
There's a point, I think, in most people's lives when first of all, I had a lot of education by accident. So I was very fortunate that way. I didn't have to go back to school. Where I grew up, that's what you did. You went until you finished. And I didn't even know there was any sort of real life after school.
Right. And you probably didn't know you really had an option not to go. I mean, that was just what you did.
It's what you did, you know, and then there's a point where that ends and you say, well, what am I going to do? Well, I certainly didn't want to end up being a teacher in a university. They didn't look too damn happy to me, and after my summer experience with everything, I could only possibly talk about it with people that have been there, because there's just so much that happened in terms of seeing the larger world. And when I went back to school after that summer, people were still sitting in the same office, looking the same way, talking about the same things, and somehow I saw that as an atrocity. And I just wanted to be out there in life, seeing what was going on. And I suppose I never stopped doing that. Well, somewhere along the way, I had a girlfriend that was in an advertising agency. And I decided I wanted to be a musician. I was average. I was okay. But
what
then,
did you play?
I play guitar. I still play a couple hours a day just for the hell of it. Yeah, I married a musician. A pretty well-known, famous musician.
Well, who is that? Who is that?
Andrea Arnold, and her, Eddie Arnold.
Yeah.
That's his granddaughter. So I came into that family of longtime musicians. And
interesting.
Yeah, she was very, very cool. It was a very exciting period of my life, actually, when we traveled around, and I spent a year on the road.
That is very cool.
She was a mange lounge act in Las Vegas and Hollywood starlet and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So that's what brought me to LA. I was going to be a writer, and she was going to continue her career. And so I won a contest in Canada, and I won it's called a PEP grant, and to write novels. I submitted a novel and came in second or third or something like that, but it was a cash prize. So I had an agent in New York and an agent in Los Angeles, and I went down there and did some movies, and then had to, at some point, move out of the Tahiti Motel on Sepulveda Boulevard, with 2 kids and a dog and a Visa card that, is so scratched up that it wouldn't emboss anymore. Remember those days when things embossed?
Right.
It wouldn't emboss anymore, so the only place it would take it was Alfie's, and so we had to bail out of there, and I went down to San Diego and started an ad agency. I was driving tractor till 3 in the afternoon. Then I pick up the phone, open the yellow pages, and start asking people if they needed somebody to help them with an ad. Actually landed a client after 3 months of doing that. Yeah, copywriter, researcher, whatever it is that you needed, I could do it for you. And I landed a client and parlayed that into a $60 million agency.
Wow.
So it's a pretty interesting success story.
Very cool.
I got married along the way and divorced and all that kind of good stuff.
Are you today? Are you still part of the agency, or did you?
The agency is now 5 different agencies, and I have my own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I left with a couple of accounts, and the way the business goes, I don't have those accounts presently. But things are very nice and very sweet, and everything that I do now, I have a virtual office. I have about 20 people working with me, and we just PDF back and forth. We see the client as little as we need to, see each other almost never, and just put out.
And they're all over the country.
All over the country, yeah. And put out just the greatest work, as good as anything I've ever done. So I'm really current, and it's a young person's game. You have to stay current.
Yes.
And you're there or you're not, and there's no hiding. And one thing that's good about being old with a young attitude is you can't be fooled. You can't be fooled, but you still like what you do.
That's fantastic.
At least I do.
Yeah.
That is a wonderful story, and it gets us to, what you have shown us in your wonderful bio is this vast litany of the various brands that you have helped create and shape, and sort of shepherd into the marketplace. I'm very interested in your perspective on this branding game and what the role of brand is in this young person's game.
Well, we used to call it different things. Branding is just the most recent buzzword. It's got about a 5-year life so far. I use it all the time now too. Mm-hmm. And to me, it means consistency of image and message across everything that you're putting out. And there's a particular image. It's called a hero image, and that's the main image. That's the hub of everything that you do. And then you come up with that image, and then you have equity with that image against everything that you're doing. So if it's a direct mail piece, or it's a television commercial, or a radio spot, or a website, it carries that a germ of that hero image on everything that you do. And so a potential customer should be able to just see that image, know who you are, know what you stand for, know how to reach you, and it just is that alignment of your communications plan. That's what branding is.
How does branding fit with response advertising? You got a lot. This seems to be. The world that we live in right now is this sort of point and click. You go on the website, you are being begged for a response, right?
Yeah, to me, everything is response advertising. The only thing that might not be, you could say, is the traditional use of television, where you're just creating the, if like in the timeshare, you have openers and closers. Mm-hmm. So television is more of an opener. You just want to create that mental set in somebody's mind that, oh, that's really neat, I'll get around to that sometime, and then the direct mail piece comes and hits you, right? Or but TV is changing now too with interactive TV, and in a very few years, you're going to see hunt and click and interactivity and television as well. Everything should be aimed at a response.
And what's going to kind of happen, this might be going off on a tangent, but what's going to happen to some extent to the advertising agency in that traditional TV market as TiVos become more and more popular and people are fast-forwarding right through all of those commercials. So where does that put them, and what's the new angle now if eventually there's not the television audience you used to have?
Well, that's a good question.
Well, it's all. Television is one piece of a marketing mix, promotional mix, and it's all done by the numbers. So if your numbers start to slip off based upon a viewing audience or some external factor that comes in that will impact viewing audience, it really is just a disturbance in the force right now. It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal. May it ever become a big deal? I don't know. Things are definitely changing. We're watching TV now through our laptops and through our gaming machines. Mm-hmm. Wherever there's a medium, advertising will be the driving force behind that medium, because the medium can only survive through advertising dollars. And the media itself, each medium will find a way to capitalize on advertising. Otherwise, it won't survive.
Because it needs money.
It needs money to operate. Right. That's right.
Yeah, even TV is becoming more product placement than we've had in a long time. I think you probably...
like on shows, you mean?
Yeah. I think the definition between a show and a commercial is becoming more blurred.
That's true.
Even years ago, I don't remember what year it was, but I was taking care of Hobie Cat. It was probably around 1983, 84. All right, that's a long time ago. And they would send me up to Hollywood to say, can we put, to see producers, can you put a Hobie Cat in your show, and we'll provide you with the sailboat and the crew, and just write it in to what you're doing, and there's a fee attached to that.
You have to pay them to do it.
You bet.
Yeah.
Because that's a placement, and that becomes a subliminal. Well, that's what television is. It's a subliminal. As television becomes less of a subliminal, you get more of a look and click.
Well, there's a whole trend there's a whole issue right now where the Writers Guild has come forward saying, you know what, if you're going to be coming to us, production studio, and telling us that we need to start writing products into our episodic television series, we want to be paid based on advertising rates, and in addition to our are scale wages. Well, that poses an interesting question. I mean, you talk about the blurred line between the advertisement and the
right, because they used to be separate.
They
but
used
now,
to be separate.
if
They're not
the writer's
anymore.
responsible for making it compelling for that product too,
Right.
do they have a stake in that? And should they be compensated for that? Maybe they should be.
Yeah, that won't happen. And the reason it won't happen is the writers are the low people on the totem pole. The lowest person on the totem pole actually would be the graphics designer, because even the lowly writer can go in and tell the graphics designer what to do. But you go to LA, Hollywood, anywhere, it's everybody in line is writing a screenplay. You can always move somebody out, and we're not a very union friendly world right now. Mm-hmm. And it's not like you're going to be outsourcing writers, but you could certainly find another one in a hurry.
Well, look what happened as soon as the Writers Guild goes on strike. You see the flourishing of reality television and contest television shows, and the largest product placement shows are American Idol, and I mean, it is an hour-long commercial.
Well, it's really funny. I've gotten really adept at watching TV and looking in the background, and you see products all the time. You see all these different messages that aren't necessarily part of the storyline or anything, and they're just placed. And Coca-Cola sitting there, or this, or a Mac in the background. It's not even part of the storyline, but a Mac is sitting there with the big logo and all that stuff. Yeah, it's very blurred.
So what's next? I mean, in terms of how we touch people, I mean, Mary made a point earlier. I'm interested in your background in industrial psychology and social anthropology, because I think that gives you an interesting perspective on how we touch people in our messaging. What's next in terms of how people are resonating with advertising and how they're getting and trusting their messages that are coming into their lives?
Well, getting and trusting messages just has to be an extraordinarily naive position in this day and age, because
nobody does.
Well, I don't think they should have reason to, because the actual channel of communication is also owned by the product people. And so when you talk about news, there is no such thing as news anymore.
Exactly.
It's just agenda-driven, and it's driven by corporation that happens to own media.
Right.
And if you read Walter Cronkite's autobiography, A Reporter's Life, he actually names dates and meetings where this transition took place. We're not going to do news anymore. We're going to do entertainment. So it's all entertainment. Yep. And so you have Steve Jobs now basically being a major player, Pixar being now a major player in Disney, the entire Apple connection, which has really been wonderful. That's where things are going, that you're going to receive all of your information while you're doing something else, while you're multitasking and you just happen to have it with you.
And what's been interesting is if you watch, you sit and you watch your local news at 6 o'clock, and there's these companies that advertise who sell nothing. There's nothing you could buy from them as the consumer. They're in plastics, or they're in the... And so you sit and you wonder, well, why on earth are they sitting here, advertising? Okay, maybe they want you to know they want to talk to stockholders. Well, if that was the case, they'd advertise on CNBC or what those other financial networks are. And so what, there's speculation of is, well, no, we buy airtime. And so that then when there's a negative story possibly coming out about plastics, right, they can call up the network and basically say, you run the story about plastics, we pull our advertising dollars, and it's working. I mean, and then thus they're angling and spinning news because they're trying to keep their sponsors happy, and so I think that's also. I mean, there's been a lot of things that have changed the whole nature of news, and that's going down another story. But you sit there and it's like, why does ADM advertise to me? I can't buy a thing ADM makes as a consumer.
Right.
So there's something there.
Well, I mean, I think what you said is accurate. And what I'm saying is everything is advertising. The original question was, where are things going? Well, they're going where they are right now. It's just going to be more portable. We're just going to be more and more portable, but the destruction has taken place. We're in an entertainment world, period. Right. And the media brings that to us, and the media is an entertainer.
Is there any independent media really left
No, you have bastions of sanity, but not in the media. Matter of fact, people are being kind of kept out of the media, and NPR is just a tragic joke right now. Anyway,
why is that? Why do you think?
Because we have an administration right now that scared the hell out of them that they're going to lose their funding, and the main thing that somebody wants to do, an entity wants to do, is stay alive.
They told them less news, didn't they? Yeah.
Once you bring it down to air and water. We're going to shut off your air. You're not going to be able to get any more water. People will start following you for what you want them to do, and that's when integrity leaves the store, and that's sort of the world that we're in right now. Now there can be some very pleasant moments inside there, but it's not set up for that. It's set up for to channel through what gets determined to be channeled through. But I do public relations as well, a full service. Company. So when you're talking about how a company will do some advertising to leverage against stories written about them, that's entirely accurate. As a matter of fact, we go in now to do contracts with magazines, and we'll say, we'll buy a contract with you if you run a feature story on our company. Because all of that leverage goes away the moment you sign the contract. So you go in and you do the contract, and you get a story. Now the naive reader looks at this magazine. Mm-hmm. Plus, I will say, I don't want an ad in the same month that story is running. What do I want to double hit there? It doesn't make sense. I want to get more frequency. I want to get more reach. Plus, I don't want them to look at an ad and then see this. And then see the story because it looks, oh yeah, they bought
conflict
it.
of interest.
So we pull that deal as well. Now the naive reader is going to say, oh, there's something valid about that company because I just read this story on them, which is the whole point of public relations anyway.
Which is more valuable to you, the ad or the story?
Well, yeah, you have to have both, and the story is there and gone. I just had a meeting with a client yesterday talking about what to do, how to work back end from a PR story. You get the story, and then you reprint that story out thousands of times, and you have a cover letter attached to that reprint, and then you send it out, and now you've got a direct mail campaign with some credibility attached to it. And it didn't cost you anything for the material. So you need to work PR. Because PR is just, well, what did you do for me today? What did you do for me today? What did you do? It's the most thankless job you could possibly ever have. So once you do get a story out, you want to use that story against a different mix in your entire program to match up to the plan to get as many hits as you possibly can against your target audiences.
And you're building market share, mind share with them.
That's a great word.
They're reading it, they see the advertisements, so there's a certain mind share, and so then whenever they're looking for that product or service, you're one of the top one or two, and you're there.
That's what it's all about, is repetition, repetition, repetition. And that's what gets expensive. Reach is semi-expensive, but you have to have enough impact against your reach, and the repetition is the way to do that. Mm-hmm. Now, if you don't have to pay for some of that repetition, that's what you want to find. That's what you want to do.
Yeah. Well, that's how Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and they spend millions, but they're just trying to keep there so you will continue to buy their stuff because it's, again, you've got that mind share. And because as soon as you think they're just like every other soda product out there, then they've lost mind share. They become like Safeway Select or whatever it is. They're no different.
I will argue to say they are better than
Well, but that's not my point. They need to keep that brand alive
that
you perceive them as being different.
Right, exactly.
Whether they are or they aren't, I guess, really doesn't matter.
Exactly.
I had a lot of Starbucks shares, and I stopped drinking coffee right after my operation because I was down for 10 days and could barely drink water. And nothing that you really want to do either, because then you have to go to the bathroom, and where you're going to go. So you really get to relate to old people when you have kind of an injury where you're just
surgery.
in one spot. And so I said, well, that's a good time to start cleaning things up. So I stopped drinking coffee. But yesterday I had to meet in a Starbucks, and I went in there, and I'm not drinking coffee, but I'm there and I'm looking around. Well, why does this place? I didn't understand it anymore. I mean, I understood it. I understood it from owning a lot of stock, and God bless them, and keep drinking that.
They're doing
coffee.
fine.
But I didn't
Nate
really.
is not advocating
I
cutting
didn't-
caffeine.
No, I didn't understand why I was there.
Interesting.
So
the
it is.
only-
So you
yeah.
can step outside of these synaptic connections, these mental pathways that advertising is creating for you. You talk about a culture, and what is that culture made up of? The culture is made up of how you sell yourself to yourself. And we've been doing a hell of a job of selling ourselves to ourselves in this country and exporting it around the world.
We're the best marketers in the world. There's no doubt.
But it doesn't mean we have to buy our own crap.
Yeah, but we do.
Oh, so true. So true.
Yeah, but we certainly do. There's no doubt about it.
You can
It's,
still be an individual and recognize things for what they are and maintain your own sense of self and treat things as entertaining rather than things that are infiltrating your brain trying to get you to do something.
Well, and that goes back to you were talking earlier in your career about brainwashing and whatnot. With all this advertising that goes on and even the way that the government communicates with us, are we basically training people to act and behave the way we want them to behave? Are we brainwashing them?
Of course, that's happened a long time ago. 1984 was quite a long time ago. I mean, George Orwell, we're way past George Orwell and Big Brother. We've bought that already. We've swallowed that Kool-Aid a long, long time ago. When you start thinking about whether something is happening, it probably means it happened about 15 years ago.
So we are essentially living in the Matrix.
You betcha. Yeah, heart and soul.
I'm tempted to ask you this question. Do you feel like there's any hope for us?
Oh, yeah.
But I have this feeling that you'll come back saying, why do we care about that? Who cares? Let's move on.
Well, hope is interesting. The Russians say, in fact, they say hope is the last thing to go.
Yeah.
But I handle and have handled some extremely wonderful clients that have phenomenal product integrity, and you can use all of these ways of communicating to a positive end. I call it features, functions, and benefits. When I worked with 3M, I couldn't write a sentence without having a feature, a function, and a benefit in it. So you say, here's what's in the product, here's how the product works, here's what's in it for you. So in any sentence, a customer can look to see what the benefit is and track it back to the way the product works, to the feature that was embedded in the product. And you can accept or reject the presentation that we made saying, this is why we think our product is really good, feature, function, and benefit. So there's another level to advertising, which is educational for the right clients. And then you have to have all the different skills to be able to put those things out there. And I mean, hopefully we're getting smarter consumers. There's more information available. This is the data-driven universe right now. There's more data available, more information available, and
Coupled with a generation that's grown up with it now, or
knows how to use it.
knows how to use it,
And it's
wield
more
it effectively.
skeptical than ever because they've seen that all this advertising, maybe it's not wholeheartedly true, so they
Right.
become very skeptical.
I did a video that won a Telly Award, and it was for an organization called the Kindering Center. It's Early Intervention for Children with Disabilities, and it's a wonderful place. And all I did was just focus the camera. I did another one for another company where it took 5 takes for the CEO to say we're a people company. He just couldn't get it out. So the camera doesn't lie.
Yeah.
Now, you can do a lot of editing and you can switch things around, but there's always just going to, it's been my experience, that there's just always something wrong with a bad place. You just can't make it perfect. You can make it slick, which is a very negative word, but you can never make it true. It's going to hold itself. And I would hope, talk about hope, that people are able to filter through to the truth on anything that's presented to them, even by somebody as accomplished as me. And when you become rather good at what you do, there's a responsibility to choose the kinds of clients that you think are doing some good out there in the world and stay away from other ones that hopefully somebody else would come along with as much confidence as you, but maybe not as much skill, and let those people look like what they deserve to look like.
What's next for you, Nate? Where do you go from here? Where does the experience go from here?
I don't know. I mean, I have a new puppy. I have 5 acres. I'm thinking of getting a horse. I'm having a good time. I feel great. I'm at the top of my game, and I guess like I said, just gonna be putting up a website really soon, and to come out of the closet. Actually, maybe even let people know that I'm still alive, and. So I want to get really fairly assertive with some people that deserve to have their story told, and I'll help them get that story out. Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm kind of covered. I can, I have enough mental satisfaction. That's such a bad word. I mean, I'm dealing with the things I'm carrying to the grave. They're not going to trip me up.
Right.
I'm okay, and I have enough funds. I can get over the hill. And so I'm just looking
Good place to be.
Good place to be.
I'm just looking to be around people that I like. I'm just looking to be around people that I like. I think people are happy to see me because they know I can be anywhere. So if I'm in front of you, it's because I want to be here.
Nothing like waking up out of the Matrix, is there?
This has been a real pleasure.
It has been interesting.
Absolutely interesting. I'm so glad we worked this out and that you were flexible in your schedule to be able to come sit down with us. It's a pleasure getting to know you, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you very, very much.
I mean, Seattle campus. I mean, the Seattle students should be proud. We've come up here several times and done some shows, and I've just continued to be impressed with their faculty members. I think it's excellent.
Of resource here has been really outstanding.
So wonderful. Well, we were talking with Nate earlier. If anybody did want to get in touch with him, what they can do is just contact us at the show.
Yeah,
at Tuesday12.com, and we will.
Tuesday12.com. You can write us an email at theshow@Tuesday12.com.
Or any of our first names.
Or at our first names at
Tuesday12.com.
Jamie, Pete, or Mary at Tuesday12.com. And we all three of us check those addresses quite
Happy
regularly.
Halloween.
Happy Halloween,
That's
everybody.
right.
Subscribe to the show. Don't just listen off the website. Be good to your kids and pets. And
don't make them dress up like a
or
cauliflower.
or banana.
It's an eggplant.
And be good, everybody. Until next week, this has been Tuesday Noon.
We're out.
This has been Tuesday Noon for October 31st, 2006. For more information on the show and to subscribe to the podcast, catch up with us on our website at www.tuesday12.com and write us at theshow@tuesday12.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week, Tuesday Noon.